Yeah, they say I'm confrontational. I want peace, just not at the cost of my silence. Speak up. Through the hood, I keep hearing people saying I'm supposed to die tonight. They can't destroy what they ain't built in the first place. So I'm finna ride tonight. I went from a truth seeker to truth speaker. Truth through the booth, your Bluetooth and your coupe speakers. Run up in here, I cut an ear, I'm too Peter. I bucket fear, I chuck a spear like Lou Peter. They love it here, I hate it here. They murder babies and pervert the children and make it here. It's getting crazy, everybody claiming they gangster here. And everybody feel it, but nobody is saying here. This call over money, so I say what I want, dog. Your favorite rapper don't need too afraid to be broke, dog. You lose your career pissing in folk off. But you can call black women hoes and kill all the black men that you want, dog. And I don't care if you hate that, I could take that. But stop claiming you real, knowing you hate facts. Sad thing is how fast you could diss a black queen and turn around and walk on eggshells for a drag queen. Bizzle, this what you wanna do? I never came for the smoke. If it gotta go down, then let's get it poppin'. And see, that really ain't what I want. If it gotta go down, then let's get it poppin'. You can't muzzle me, dog. I say what I want. If it gotta go down, then let's get it poppin'. I really love peace, but I'm ready for the war. So if it gotta go down, then let's get it poppin'. World full of fake news, nothing real.
What's up, guys? Welcome. Come in. I'm gonna play this for a little bit. We're gonna get started, but I need the audience to build up. We are battling a shadow ban. We're fighting censorship. I'm so serious. I'm gonna turn it off for a second. I'm really serious. Conservatives are going through censorship. Okay, we went from 600, 700, 800 people per live. I'm on Cash's right now. Cash would get 3,000 to 4,000 people in a live, and I can't even max out 50. So please do me a favor. We have to beat the algorithm. Hit the thumbs up. All right. Hit the notification bell. Subscribe if you're watching on Facebook. Make sure you hit the share button and make sure you have the little world icon in the corner so you're sharing it publicly. We have to. The only way we get this message out is through you guys, the viewers, you tuning in. So go ahead and get that going, and then we'll get the show started once we build some of the views up.
These people are evil, don't eat what the media feeding you. Deceitful and wicked, they giving you lenses to see it through. Everybody lying, nobody willing to speak the truth like the Lord said it would be. Maybe we'll see him soon. Bizzle. I never came for the smoke. If it gotta go down, then let's get it poppin'. And see, that really ain't what I want. If it gotta go down, then let's get it poppin'. You can't muzzle me, dog. I say what I want. If it gotta go down, then let's get it poppin'. I really love peace, but I'm ready for the war. So if it gotta go down, then let's get it poppin'. They tryna turn your little boy into a princess, and they ain't even gave him a chance to be a princess. They sick agenda telling you to let him clip his member. He can't even pick his bedtime, but he could pick his gender. They say that I ain't woke. I say they ignorant. See, I remember how the Pilgrims did the Indians. Remember, they ain't just attack them, they befriended them, gave them blankets full of diseases and ended them. Outrage, footage leaking every other week or two, so you don't see the blankets they sneaking you. They ain't gotta squeeze at you, they feminizing your males and leading you into a lifestyle that won't allow you to reproduce. One black life gone, they'll march in the street with you. They hand you a blanket to say abortion is free for you. How else you gonna get ex-slaves to agree with you? To kill themselves, say you giving them the freedom to. Bizzle, let's wake them up.
I never came for the smoke.
If it gotta go down, then let's get it poppin'.
You see, that really ain't what I want.
If it gotta go down, then let's get it poppin'.
You can't muzzle me, dog. I say what I want.
If it gotta go down, then let's get it poppin'.
I really love peace, but I'm ready for the war.
If it gotta go down,
Let's get it poppin'. Do. Guys, that's Bizzle, man. Bizzle has those bangers. He just came out with a video the other night to where he's talking about it's called Black versus Blue or Black and Blue. Go check it out. It gives both sides to the spectrum, which is why I wanted to do a race relations show where it talks about where cops are coming from, and also where young black men are coming from. I won't say that there isn't a such thing as called sometimes racial profiling. I won't say that there are cops out there that don't do that. Of course, we know, but there's a good and a bad to everything. So freaking out over like minuscule stuff, which like one life is too much, okay? But 14, there you go. Go check that out. It's actually a really dope video. It's 2 parts. I can't. So right now I'm not live on Facebook because I guess I got thrown in jail on this profile too, and I don't even post on it. So God knows what they got me for. I don't even know what I did. Now I have to look. I'm nosy.
You done broke with the thought police.
What did I do? Welcome, guys. Welcome, DC. It's my homie. It's gonna be my co-host now that he's free. We're going to be doing more shows like these. Eric was on with me the other night trying to help me make America think again, but it was it's a stressful job. I don't think y'all understand. It's stress.
I know.
Stress.
Only the strong survive, and you definitely built for it.
Okay, you can't post until June 23rd. Don't know what I did. All right. I don't know what I did. The last thing that happened, they sent me a notification and they labeled one of my videos bullying. Now, mind you, I just put Biden voters and I was on there talking junk. I'm about to show y'all. This is what it was. Biden voters. You see it, right? Okay. Scroll down. Oh, bullying. So I disagreed. I'm like, y'all are tripping. What'd they do? Put it back. But now I'm in jail until the 23rd.
Makes sense.
Make it make sense, man. So we're on Cash. Cash is YouTube and my YouTube. If everybody watching here can go to Facebook and share it out, that way people will get it.
Please, guys. Yeah, that'd be great.
Let's do it. I wonder if we did a test run and just go on there saying Trump voters and say the exact same thing and see what happens.
Nothing.
Did y'all hear about
Trump voters?
The new Ron DeSantis, I guess, law that he passed in Florida?
Which one?
About allowing people to sue social media platforms.
Yes.
Amen.
Man.
Yes.
If I was in Florida, I'd be a rich man.
Facts. Yo, Christine, go ahead and file a suit for me.
For real.
Christine lives there, man. This is crazy.
Yeah.
We're gonna react to something funny. It's funny, but it's true. I came across this like a couple days ago and I seen it went viral and I was like, nice. So I'm gonna play this and then we're going to react again to the video we did last night. I just came off of a Project Veritas video with Facebook whistleblower about vaccine suppression, and to those who choose to not get it, you need to watch it.
I saw this. Almost sent it to you last night. This is great. I almost sent it to you last night. It's great.
I don't know if I shared the audio. Oh, come on, man. YouTube doesn't give you the option to share. It looks like a little backwards reverse button. That's crazy. If YouTube is doing that, yo, F you, YouTube. How are you going to take away the ability to share? Oh, my phone is about to die. You seen it, Nay? It's actually a really good video. You guys are going to like it. Okay. I just went live on my Facebook. I'm pretty sure I did. Now I'm sitting here thinking about it. Thank you for everybody that shared. I really appreciate it. Let's get into this video.
Listen, man, to all my African Americans out here, I'm going to be one of the first people to say it. The Caucasian Republicans was right. Biden ain't the shit. The man that found out that black people are turning $20 into $200,000 by jumping into the goddamn cryptocurrency with these Shibas, these Doges, these Kinsuls, these goddamn safe moons, and now he trying to put tax on it because he know one thing: black people ain't trying to let their money sit that long. If we hit for 10,000, we pulling out. Now he want to put taxes on all this. Then yeah, I have no problems. I want to rescind my vote, and I want Trump back in the goddamn chair. Because one thing about Trump understands business, and he don't like people messing with his money. And right now, Biden is trying to mess with our money. We don't like it. We sorry, Caucasian Republicans. I am personally sorry.
For real, man.
What are y'all's thoughts on that, man? DC, you go first. I want to hear what you think about this.
Because it's so true. Like, it just goes to show you how, we vote against our own interests, all for the sake of race rhetoric. They want us to constantly think about the abstract, like black people. I'm thinking about my black family. That's what I want to think about. Yeah. And when I talk to people like my father-in-law and other Democrat Joe Biden supporters and people like that, I tell them, are you thinking about our family at all? You think about black people and thinking about all these other families and supposedly thinking about them, but are you thinking about me? What's best for your grandchildren? What's best for the people in your circle? The people that you truly care for. Do you care about us as much as you care about this race rhetoric and this dogma? And the answer is no. They care about the dogma. They care about the narrative. They care about, upholding, these traditions of, ill will towards, white people, man. I guess. And like I said, it's just.
I mean, last night proves what you just said. Last night when we were talking, one of the girls that came on, she's like, "Yeah, we need to have segregation," and we were. I was absolutely floored. I was floored by some other stuff too, but I'm gonna save it until after Eric's done.
I was just gonna add, it's incredible to me. I think one of the hardest parts of this is how many people from the get were saying, we don't know this guy's policies. We have no idea what he's going to ultimately turn into. We don't know who's in control here. This dude hid in his basement for a solid 9 months. I have never seen anything like it in my life. And he came out, and the times he came out, he popped his head out to accost the black community. Let's just call that what it is. This dude came out to say racist shit. And it was crazy to me. I think it was on, what was the show? He said, "You ain't black if you ain't voting for me." And I
Breakfast Club.
Yeah, Breakfast Club. For me, that was like, I thought for sure, like, this is game over. This just needs to touch the community, and people will see that this dude is a wolf in sheep's clothing, 100. And all it did was it got a little bit of press for a couple of days, and then this dude was sitting in having a coffee. Supporter he's got.
Are you there? I don't know why we can't hear you.
Did that cut out or come back?
You're back now.
All right. So sorry about that. I had a couple things come through, but I just, I thought that was a wrap. So for me, it's cognitive dissonance, and there is a label for this, and this is what's happening right now. Cognitive dissonance is a real issue, and a lot of people are suffering from it right now. And that's what I see happening. And this person is spotlighting that dead on, saying, I have buyer's remorse. This isn't what they told us they were selling us. And it's a bunch of horse shit in the background. And I think it's a valuable and important perspective, because we aren't moving in the right direction as a country. We had people on here last night, to your point, Suni, who are calling for active segregation. My God, that is ludicrous.
Hey, do you know what Charlemagne said to this after the whole interview came out?
I believe he said he was on the fence, right?
He didn't even for as hard as they go to like talk about, they're pro-black, I love being black power, black this, black that. When they're met with adversity and they have a white person saying the most racist, disgusting things, they're like this.
Mm-hmm.
But you can do this. talking to another black person. You can do this when you're talking to a white person that actually cares, but when a real racist is in the room, they cower.
No.
They
Because
cower.
that's not what they go by. Like, that's just a front.
Yeah.
That's just a complete front. What it's really all about is political affiliation. You know, if you're not ponying up to the Democrats, then you're on the wrong side. And it don't matter what line you cross. If you're on a certain side of that line, you get a pass. And that's how it always been. And one of the worst things to see about this presidency, I must say, is that all the people that voted for Joe Biden, he rode the wave of Trump hatred right into the White House. And now those very same people, are they paying attention?
Nope.
I'm sure they go to the grocery store, they buy food, and they're not even paying attention to the fact that they're paying 4, 5, 6% more in food prices. They're probably looking at the gas prices and not just blowing it off. They're not even paying attention to how this man is destroying the country. But when Trump was in the office, you best believe they was paying attention. They was paying attention to every little thing that the media was saying. So it's cowardice. They're cowards.
It is, and it's sad because this got black conservatives, the sellouts, the coons. We were like, what did you just say? I'm not what? I'm not what? And black Democrats are just like, that's Joe Biden, man. He's old. You don't know how many times I heard that.
Yeah.
Well, hold on, Suni. Let's talk about this for a second because we were spitting kind of in the backstage, right? I was telling you about my grandparents. Like one of the things I've dealt with too is that on the other side of my family, we have my grandmother. She had dementia for 15 years. Look, man, I all you watching in the comments, there's no nice way to say this, but the man has some medical things going on. It's very clear to anybody who's had family members that have dealt with this. And that's okay. I don't knock the guy for having it, but it's allowing for our country to be, it seems like, run from somebody in the background. It's kind of the feeling that I think collectively people get. And just to this point is he grew up in a generation where, when he's on the House floor saying things like, I don't want my kids to grow up in a racial jungle. To be frank, that was a time when people said shit like that and it was okay. And we've made so much progress that last night we have somebody come by calling for segregation. My mind's explode. I'm 100% of that.
Completely regressive.
It is. Guys, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm looking at the likes. There's 51 people watching on my YouTube. We have to get the likes up. Everybody watching, get out of the chat, hit the thumbs up really quick. Really quick. Okay? Please. I'm going to do like Kevin Samuels does, and I'm just going to shut my show down and do this here until you do it. Yo, he's such a jerk, bro. He will stop the whole show and like, oh, my likes don't match. I'm done. And people do it. His likes go, film. All these people are like, no, come back. But this was Charlemagne. And if you've been watching Kwame Brown, you should go follow and watch him. DC told me about him and I've been like glued ever since. He calls Charlemagne all the way out.
Have you watched some of his like videos through the pandemic?
I got to watch one last night.
Go back a few months and watch what he's been talking about. He's been laying down straight facts.
Facts.
He's definitely been red pilled. I can say that.
He has. I like him. Or he plays some obnoxious sound. He's so petty, bro. I love that dude.
About your running mate. I don't know if you saw. Well, I saw the day that the news report broke that Amy Klobuchar was being vetted, and a lot of people on social media, they're not too happy about that. And It's because they want your running mate to be a black woman. I don't know if you saw the op-ed in the Washington Post by some of the leading black women voices in this country, and they feel since black women are such a loyal voting bloc, and black people saved your political life in the primaries this year, they have things they want from you, and one of them is a black woman running mate. What do you say to them?
What I say to them is that I'm not acknowledging anybody who is being considered, but I guarantee you there are multiple black women being considered. Multiple.
Well,
Thanks so much. That's really our time. I apologize.
You can't do that to black media.
I can't do that to white media and black media because my wife has to go on at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Oh, I'm in trouble.
Listen, you got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact.
So
every time I just.
Oh, okay.
The thing about it, after that interview, Charlemagne he said something about Joe Biden. He said, this is what he said. He said Joe Biden. He said something like Joe Biden can go somewhere and die, basically like that. And then he followed that with, I'm still gonna vote Biden because Kamala Harris is on the ticket. If you know this man is dirt and you're gonna vote simply because there's a black woman on the ticket, you're not doing anything in the best interest of, you know, your community or yourself, your family for that matter. You're voting to further Kamala Harris's career, nobody else's. So it's ridiculous.
Whew. Malcolm X, man, what did he say? You need to know why you're voting. You need to know the policies in your community. You need to know how it affects you. And black folks are not politically mature. They're just not. Mm-hmm. They're not. Charlemagne he's a personality. I'm a personality, but I got a brain. Mm-hmm. There's substance behind what I do. All they do is spit gossip. Kwame Brown said it the other day. He's like, yo, you guys, and I said it when I was talking about Jason Lee. You make a fortune off of talking shit about your own people. And we tune into it. Like, how backwards is that?
What is this phenomenon called? Because I mean, I don't know if you know. Maybe it's just kind of a simp device. I don't know, but like it honestly, like, where are people doing this in other cultures where they are putting up the worst instead of the best in their culture? That's been a disconnect for me. I mean, yeah, sure, there's examples in every culture, but I think that's definitely a disconnect for me, guy. I mean, you guys can fill in the blanks there on that a little bit for me. But like, why always are we? You know, and I'll speak to like LeBron James. Like, the dude is rich. He's figured out how to have a sustenance life. But all this dude does is throw out lures of race baiting is the best way to put it, right? And for me, I can't look and say, well, maybe there is tangible people out there that have said stuff, but they don't get the platform to speak on. And so this is where that conversation it really degrades in a lot of ways. Where are the people saying, no, we have smart people here who are thinking hard. It's granted, it's gotten a little bit better, but where is that culture? Where has it been, and why is it always elevate to the person that can just get the most attention instead of do the most right? That's a question I guess I don't understand.
And that's a loaded question.
Yeah, it's very multifaceted, and as far as the underlying causes of that culture that elevates some of our worst. And if anybody who knows who's been to a black school, they try to depress some of our best. That's why you get people being called white for speaking properly, or people getting bullied for being smart and elevating to a certain level or stature in school. And it comes from in my opinion, a glorification of the worst we have to offer. And we see it in our music, where we glorify misogyny, we glorify promiscuity and violence and murder and things like that. And it just creates the perfect storm to where if you attack the lowest, you're attacking the culture itself. And if you're attacking the culture, in their eyes, you're attacking them personally, even though they might not be nowhere near, that echelon of the culture of the sub society of black people of the community.
Facts. I mean, you really summed it up. It's been our responsibility. Like this, honestly, the leaders and the older generation, a lot of Black folks, they dropped the ball just completely. And we've been in kind of like an autopilot in a sense, to where they literally feel like they don't have an identity. Like that's where they are. This is not my country. And it's like, yes, it is. Yes, it is. And when I say leaders, I'm talking about Jesse Jackson. You put it into Black folks' heads. No, you're African American. And this literally came in the 80s. In the 80s. No, you're African American. And now Black folks are like, I'm not from here. The Constitution doesn't apply to me. Fuck the flag. Fuck the national anthem. You hear this. So it's a combination of, yes, Democrats are directly responsible for what we're seeing. They absolutely are. But we're also responsible because, like we were talking about, in the 20s and the years before then, we had a good portion of our homes, if like 80% of our homes were two-parent homes. We were married. We thrived under when we had Reconstruction. We created Black Wall Street. We had Black folks going to different parts of this map, starting their own cities, building hospitals, schools, libraries. And after, I'll say, FDR, I think it's a New Society, it just went like this. So it's a combination. It's our fault. It's our leaders' fault. It's our older generation, and it's the Democrat Party not taking responsibility for anything they did.
I'm gonna throw one more in there and say that Hollywood has created a couple of myths as well that are
absolutely
constantly perpetuated. One specific example I can give is I think this idea that Wakanda exists, for example, has become almost an opportunity for people to latch on something that might not exist in reality, right? But no, I think that it's important to have good role models, and that's certainly something you want to see reflected in film. So I agree with that. But on a more important level, what message are they sending to people through these things? I mean, if you really dissect that movie, what message are they sending to people? That here in America you can't have as good a life as you would have had in the homeland. What is that? That's a narrative that doesn't make sense to me, right? So I'll add that Hollywood is also pushing on this narrative.
You're right. I'll give you that because we had when Black Panther came out, we had people catering fried chicken, soul food to movie theaters. You had people showing up, drum lines showing up to this movie. Black people dressing in African garb. I'm going to show you. And we're not even from Africa. And it's not even Africa, bro. Wakanda is fake. Like you just freaking said. Nobody's from Wakanda.
It concerns me because it makes this whole homeland argument more valid in some people's mind. I would assume, again, assumption.
I can't play the audio because I don't want them to get me, but look, man.
Straight fooling.
And they got a whole dance.
For Marvel Studios, who is owned by white people. White people made billions off that movie.
100%.
They really enough.
DC, I think that's such an important point, though. Look who's the profiteer of all of this nonsense. Like exactly. Right now, look who's in office right now. He's the profiteer of this nonsense, right? So exactly. I think it's important to recognize that because if at some point those identity politics do seep into us, we can all deny it as much as we want, but when we're looking to vote, we have to know that something stands for something. And I just want to point out, like, this dude got in office, didn't say a word, made derogatory comments, and now he's in office enjoying the fruits of no labor. And it's crazy to me that people are sitting here justifying that all day. It's really wild. And I'll just say it's another white person making money off of what I've been recently educated is called the black plight, right? So sad to me.
One more point about to the Wakanda thing and the African American point that Sunni brought up. What it is a robbery, and we're laughing about it, but it's really no laughing matter, because it's sheer robbery of Black people, of their heritage. Yep. What our ancestors fought for, bled for, was to get us to this point, so we can be free, so we can experience true freedom. And we haven't experienced that as a community yet, because we're constantly dependent on the government in most cases, and also white guilt. You know, we act like we can't breathe, we can't move without white people being guilty, feeling guilty for sins of the past. So it's a complete robbery, and we can't even enjoy the fruits of their labor because it's been stolen. Our heritage has been stolen from us. Everything from our, what we're labeled as Black or African American, to movies like Wakanda that's teaching us, to separatism and demanding segregation. That's not what they fought for. They fought so we can be a part of America as it is.
100%.
Yes. I said that.
Damn, DC, throwing
I
down.
said that last night. I said, how dare you? They fought to be called American. They held a flag. When people hated them for who they were, they held the American flag and fought in wars.
Because they knew that wasn't the America that the founders dreamed of. Black people coming out of slavery, as well as the many free Blacks of society all throughout slavery, they knew what America stood for. They were educated in what the founding fathers stood for and what they tried to create and wanted to create, and they wanted to get us there. They wanted to be a part of that fight, that push to get us where we are today.
Yeah, because
we're
human, and we're blessed with certain unalienable rights.
That is like such an important, so important to recognize, is that people. This is the old adage of plant trees you'll never see the shade of, and what DC just said is absolutely the embodiment of that principle. Do things now for generations that are going to come after you, that you're never going to see the fruits of that labor. What you just talked about is people serving in the military, doing service because of the promise of what this country, not what it was at the time, but what it could be in the short and near future. And that is damn good observation.
I wish more people would understand that. And when they say, well, we've been robbed of our identity. Yeah, and you've let it go on because you don't fight against it. Yeah. Like, look at this. I pulled this up for a reason. They walked out in African garb, but when we get to the reality of who they really are, they're dressed as Black Panthers. Now, please, maybe I'm just stupid. Where do Wakanda and Black Panthers even compare or come together? We can even take it further. Africa and the Black Panthers, they don't even go together. They don't. The real Black Panthers movement, they understood accountability. They all worked and grinded. They took care of their own communities. They policed their communities, meaning they held the criminal accountable. They didn't let them get off. What are we doing? It's embarrassing. They all got the fist up. They're all dressed in black. They all got the latest J's on, expensive shoes.
It's not about progress. Like, regardless of what they say, they might have claimed that it's progress. Oh, we got an all Black cast now. It's not about progress. It's about making a statement. It's about thumbing your nose at white people and saying ha ha, when it's really the white man or the proverbial white man sitting back laughing, on his way to the bank.
Hey, J. Cole said it in the song. He was like, how are we going to learn how to save when mama got barely stay afloat money? Blacks get it and we spend it because we don't know money. white man laughing at the rapper saying, "Hi, yeah, my nigga, get your money," because they know they making money off of you. Cardi B is a puppet. She's a clown show. So is Megan Thee Stallion. So all these women that come out, bust it up, and take their clothes off, alter their bodies, get these big asses, you're doing it because somebody told you to do it, and because you think that's the standard for society. So really, you're holding yourself to quote unquote European standards that you hate, and they're making bank off of you. Bank.
While surrounded by white people in their management team, in their security, white police officers, like completely surrounded by white people telling us a different thing. It's ridiculous, man.
Man, oh, I like that. I'm sorry. That was a good comeback. I like that comment. He said they found those shoes fair and square at the Nike store before they burned it. I did hear about the BLM UK member. We're going to talk about that later in the show. But I want to get to the more pressing topic and what we were talking about the other night and why people triggered in the comment section. You know, at any time, did you guys hear me refer to black men or women as thugs?
Can't say I specifically heard you call anybody a name at all.
Oh, but this is a video. I feel like it completely destroys the media's narrative. BLM, you know, every pro-black person that walks around saying that there's a target painted on my back because I'm black. It's BS. It's BS. Let me pull this up. To give this video context, they're at a function. A fight is about to ensue. Of course, you see 3 men surrounding him. Okay. Now, I want you to see there are police officers already on the scene. Okay. There's a police car there at the scene. So, again, I need you guys to tell me how black men and women are scared, and we got a target painted on our backs. So now that I've given this some context, here you go.
Oh, he got the pop. He got the pop too, nigga. Hey, chill, bro. Chill. Oh, he got the pop. Don't start pointing over here. Hey, somebody need to go. That nigga need to put it up and go.
All right, so we see how cops were able to de-escalate that situation. I'm going to leave this plan in the background and we're going to talk about it. Cops came, told him, they gave him how many warnings? I heard probably about 10 times. Put it down, stop, don't move, do this. And he's backing up. He doesn't make any threatening gestures towards the police officers. So shout out to this young man for being wise enough in the moment to say, I need to put this down. He backed up. He put the gun down. He went to jail at the end of the day. So at what point? At what point did he have a target painted on his back? I'm lost here.
You can only say something like that if you yourself believe all black people are criminals, because criminals, of course, you know, by inherently have a target painted on their back. Hopefully. So if you think all black people are criminals, then you think all black people have targets painted on their back.
I mean, I think how he handled this stuff. Now, I don't agree with the violence here. It really hurts me that young guys feel like they have to resort to violence and guns to solve their issues because they don't have the proper guidance. It doesn't exist. But he was still able to compose himself.
Yeah, this one drives me crazy. I think, we talked about it a lot last night, but I'm going to repeat what I said a bunch of times, which is being compliant is different than submissive.
Yeah.
And if a cop is asking you to be submissive, it's time to ask some questions and know your rights for sure. And that's I think ultimately that's what Joe was trying to say last night is know your rights and resist when you know somebody's doing something to work you over. We should all agree to that. But where he lost me is on this concept that compliance is somehow submission, that by being compliant to a police officer that you're not a man. I like the logic breaks down for me because in my opinion, the hardest thing as a man to do is know that I have the physical acumen to do damage and hold myself back from trying. So like on one end of the spectrum, you got a bunch of people who want to throw fists, throw hands, make a mockery. But the hard part is when you know you can and you choose not to and see another day and fight that in court or wherever that might be. And that is just it's a lost on me. I don't know what man thinks he's bigger for beating somebody up. And when you start beating on the cops, you better expect to get hurt.
Kwame Brown said something the other day that's so true. He said that's not how it works in the streets. Like if somebody has a gun on you, you're gonna comply. Like so now that it's a cop, you think you don't have to comply. The same result is gonna happen in the streets. If somebody pulls a gun on you to try to rob you, if you don't give your stuff up, you're gonna get shot. You know, if you resist, if you try to swing at the dude, there's a great possibility you're gonna die. Same thing with the cops. If you comply in the streets, comply when law enforcement runs up on you and you're doing something.
Facts. I mean, Obama said it. Well, we're talking. I'm gonna introduce a new word that I really thought about yesterday when we were talking to Joey. It seemed like he was suffering from. It's called ODD, and it's oppositional defiant disorder. It literally means that you have a disruptive impulse control and conduct disorders defined as a pattern of angry
matter.
Yes.
Make the DSM matter.
They have a pattern of an angry or irritable mood, argumentative, defiant, vindictiveness. That's exactly what we see when we get certain individuals with cops. They're like, why are you telling me what to do? And I can guarantee you a lot of those people have come from a single parent home. And Obama said it himself. They are more likely to suffer from behavioral issues. Everything has a cause and effect. I don't know what else. I'm trying to figure out how else do I connect, because I am relating to you because I understand where you are. That doesn't work. Okay, I put reality in front of you. Like this video. This young man went home alive at the end of the day, which you say doesn't happen to young black men. That doesn't work. What else do you
lying eyes?
What do you need? Sooner did you hear about the shootings in New Jersey that left 2 dead, 12 wounded? No.
Didn't hear about that.
I've kind of checked out of the shootings, man, because I'm tired of reporting on them. They're all the same.
So Suni, you were touching on this oppositional defiance disorder. I want to touch on mental health because this is important, guys. Yeah. And I think this is oftentimes, people talk about it and it gets thrown up as it's a virtue signal. I think is a good way to explain it for a lot of people. It's I'm mentally aware, but are you really? I mean, when is the last time any of you checked up on your best friend, your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister? Like, really, are you really aware of the mental state of people? I mean, people are coming out back into the public domain for the first time in 12 or 18 months for some of these people, and you're gonna see people's mental illness all over their body. They're gonna see it all over the grocery store. You're gonna see it at the neighborhood barbecue. And I'll just speak on that is, oppositional defiance disorder. It's a real thing. You can look it up in the DSM. It's the same thing as gender dysphoria. These are mental illnesses, guys. And until they're classified differently, we need to act accordingly. And I just, I know a lot of people back off of those topics because they're afraid of the repercussions, but there's no harm in getting help. And oftentimes I think, particularly with the Black community, for whatever reason, it's really frowned upon to get that help and say, I'm not mentally strong enough. And I wish that, if there's one message I can get out tonight, it's okay to not be okay. But let's talk about it and let's get right with it. Right. And that's the most important thing to me.
And that's one thing, like in the Black community specifically, it's like a vicious cycle, because there's been studies that show that that even if you're not involved directly in a violent encounter, just hearing about it, just being around it, hearing about it down the street, happened to a classmate, it causes mental disorders, it causes stress, and it affects people's mental stability. And I think a lot of Black people are walking around with mental disorders and don't know it, just as a by way of being in the hood, coming from where we come from, and being around it so much. I know so many classmates who have lost their lives to gun violence. And I just sit back and think, how has that affected me unknowingly on my my mental state, and so many others like me. And it's like a vicious cycle. It just keeps perpetuating. And then added on top of that, as you said, we don't speak about it. We don't
we joke about it.
It's taboo. Yeah, exactly. So it's like a vicious cycle. So somewhere we have to draw the line and start taking care of the violence portion of it, and that in itself would allow for a lot of healing in the community moving forward, especially for the next generation.
Facts. I mean, I can relate to what you were just saying. People I went to elementary school with, even like family friends, they're dead or in jail. A lot of them. And we were in our real early 20s when they all just died. And it was over stupid reasons. Fighting, beefing. And then they're dead. I'm like, what are we doing all this for? Why are we marching in the streets? Why are we going so hard for Black people if we're just going to kill each other anyway?
I want to highlight in my community, I think I shared with you, Suni, I grew up affluent in a pretty white area. But I've lived in some hard places. I live down in Southern California right now. It's not, not everything is sunshines and rainbows every day. I've seen both sides of the tracks. I've been down in El Salvador, spent a month down there with the people, right? Not just down there hanging out for a vacation. I know what hard life looks like. Had some hard life, but I just want to, ask a question, which is basically, you guys are looking at this on that perspective. By the time I was, 20 years old, I had missing friends out of my group too. It was just mostly to drug use, right? So it is important to recognize, like, we all are losing people, maybe not for the exact same reasons 100%, right? But it does. It wears on you mentally, right? I would venture to say that there's a whole host of people that are my friends that have PTSD. From literally 5 years of nonstop funerals. It's sad. It's really, really sad, right? And so people, they want to make issue out of Black or white. They want to make issue of this side of the tracks, that side of the track. Everybody's got struggle. That is the unanimous consent to the human condition is struggle. But I just wanted to highlight that because it's stressful when you lose good friends. You see them the day before and the next day they ain't there no more. That's a hard life to live. And some of us have had it harder. Some of us, haven't, but same story, just, little different background on it.
Facts, man.
And one last thing, like, Tony, you bring it up all the time. You talk about it all the time. These kids that are losing their lives to gun violence. Can you imagine being in a school and you hear about your classmate getting gunned down? Like, how does that affect a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old, and so forth? Like, that ruins your innocence. Like, that lets you know my life at this very moment at 7, 8 years old can be ended by a bullet. That's not just an adult problem. That's something I have to worry about too.
Yeah, and they don't have that security from Adults, parents, because we're the ones doing it. I can sort of see why there's no respect there anymore. You don't even love me enough to protect me and remove me from these environments. Why would I give a shit about you? Like, just thinking about it, because me and DC, I'm like, I know what it's like. I know what it's like. And when you don't have that, I didn't have my dad, I had my mom, but there's still parts that I needed. There was no level of respect for anything. You watch your parents go at it. You watch your parents talk shit about each other. So you know what it is there. And then you watch it in like different aspects of your family. There's no respect established anywhere. There's no form of what a man is supposed to be, because you just don't have it. And you grow up with these very same things that you experience as a kid. You take it into your adulthood. We are kids in adult bodies because a lot of us have not healed from past traumas. We just haven't. I've experienced a lot of my healing in front of the camera, which is weird. A lot of it. People have gotten to hear parts of my life that they just suck. And you don't get over it and you don't deal with it when you don't have the proper guidance. That's literally all kids need is love and guidance. And that's what God called us to do. You're supposed to train up a child in the way it should go so you won't depart from it. Life is simple to me. I don't understand how other people don't get it. But it's crazy. Obama talked about this, and this is why I brought up the behavioral part, because he quoted statistics. These same statistics that we say as Black conservatives, and people ignore it for some odd reason.
Towards success.
Can you guys hear this? I hope
but if
so.
we're honest with ourselves, we'll admit that too many fathers are also missing. Too many fathers are MIA. Too many fathers are AWOL. Missing from too many lives and too many homes. They've abandoned their responsibilities. They're acting like boys instead of men. And the foundations of our family have suffered because of it. You and I know this is true everywhere, but nowhere is it more true than in the African American community. We know that more than half of all Black children live in single-parent households. Half, a number that's doubled since we were children. We know the statistics that children who grow up without a father are 5 times more likely to live in poverty and commit crime. They're 9 times more likely to drop out of school, 20 times more likely to end up in prison. They're more likely to have behavioral problems or run away from home or become teen parents because the father wasn't in the home. The foundations of our community and our country are weaker because of this. Think about it. How many times over the last year has this city lost a child at the hand of another child? How many times have our hearts stopped in the middle of the night with the sounds of gunshot or sirens? How many teenagers have we seen hanging out on street corners instead of hanging out in the classroom? How many are sitting languishing in prison when they should be working or at least looking for a job? How many in this generation are we willing to lose to poverty or violence or addiction? How many?
He said this in 2018.
It's disgusting. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, he said this in 2018 and then perpetuated the same thing that we're being destroyed by. Obama fueled the fire between police and the Black community. Obama did that. He didn't do anything about the 94 crime bill. He barely touched heroin, crack, and cocaine. Barely. The first president to come in and do anything was Trump with the First Step Act. He made it equal.
Yeah. So
he said this in 2018, and it's 2021, and it's gotten worse. It's like people don't fucking listen. It's really annoying.
do you all feel worked over by him, like in a major way? Like,
Hell yeah.
I do.
I
I
can't
do.
stand his
disgusting.
ass.
He just listening to him, my blood was boiling because
He's a
when I
disgrace,
realized
man.
when I recognized what could have been, you know, he presented hope to us. He prevented a path forward, but he set us back. He set us back so far. Like not only with race relations, but with community relations, because the community is now more violent. Like the community is now more cold. When you know he could have been that healing factor, but he decided to divide us even more within the community and within the larger society as a whole. And it's all for his benefit because his family got richer, our families got poorer, our families got more impoverished, our families got targeted and yet more manipulated by the Democratic Party. And it just makes my blood boil even just to look at that man, just to hear him speak, especially other words like that. When you know the problems, when you know what we're facing, and you decide to do nothing about it and look the other way.
Facts.
So I was gonna say, I was in my early. Let's see, I was about 20 when Obama got elected, right? And at 20, you should be a bleeding heart liberal at 20, and by 30, if you're not a conservative, you ain't got no mind. That's just kind of how it works. But I thought that was an awesome turning point in our country, and man, to see how that has turned out. People often, we had yesterday, Shay, particularly in the comments, was you can't relate to Black people. I don't know, Sunni, I get along with you, okay? DC, we seem to be having a good conversation here, man. It's crazy to me when people say this kind of stuff because Obama was a light of hope for a lot of people, not just Black people, but for people who wanted. I grew up, like I said, I wanted to see that dream realized, and I thought getting a Black president was that dream realized. And how childish was I to think that? But at the same time, in reality, I have to say I share disappointment because it's unfortunate to see that the community problems that this person clearly knew about, was entangled with, and had the most powerful position in the world to change it, and all he did was continue to perpetuate it. And I'm not completely, I'm not your Black student, a Black history student 100%, but I do know that Malcolm X warned exactly of this exact type of situation where you have Black people coming in saying, I represent the community, and then exploiting them up and down, and people not ever realizing they're being fleeced.
Yes. I did a video. This is actually my viral video that sent me viral. I was sitting in my car and I was like, Obama was a beautiful nightmare. He gave all of us hope. He told us, yes, we can. 2 years into his presidency, he's like, America's still, we got a long way to go. It was like the biggest deflation I've ever felt. I was like, wow. Okay, now what? Then we had hyperinflation. He's like pushing just like more of what we see now, but it's more so in your face. Using the Black plight to push pieces of legislation that had nothing to do with us. Like they keep using civil rights to push the LGBTQ agenda. And it's like, how dare you? How dare you? As hard as they worked for all that stuff, and you don't even continue to use it for our benefit. You use it to benefit a group that doesn't even represent 1% of the population. They're not even 1% of our population.
So, Sunni, I have a comment to make on this. When I was a kid, all right, I remember having this conversation very distinctly with my father. We've always been a politically astute family, I'd say. But one of the things that I remember being driven nuts by was, and this is, my memory kicks in around like, 9/11, like the context it and say that's kind of probably where we are as far as historical terms, right? But I remember asking my dad at that point in time, I don't know what was going on politically, but I remember that it was, the gay rights movement was going on and that kind of stuff, right? And I remember hearing this stuff. And listen, you want to be gay? I'm all for it. Do your thing. But one of the things I always remembered asking him was, this seems like it's such a slim majority of the country who actually cares what they're doing in their bedroom. Like literally, like, do you care? Does next door neighbor, Joe Schmo, do they give a shit? Like, and if they don't, why is it taking up, 5 of the segments of every news cycle? Like, help me understand that, right? And he said to me, son, there are people in this country that will make the loudest amount of noise, and they are the smallest population of people. And I always remember pushing back on him. I said, yeah, but if they're loud enough for long enough, eventually they'll win the argument, because people will turn around and say, I'm done having this conversation. Do whatever the hell you want with this. I think that's where we've gotten to in our country, not to compare the gay rights movement to what we've got going on today. I think they're different things, but there is some bleeding that's happening in those communities where you have these activists, and that's what they are. They're activists who bleed into whatever community they can to cause mayhem, destruction, and chaos to get to a place where it doesn't matter what you and I, the American people, want. It's about the money they put in, the narrative that was pushed, and an ideology that people just genuinely, mostly, I'd say the majority of people reject.
When this poll was taken, it wasn't even a poll. When these percentages were put out by the civil rights group, they didn't even make up 1% of the population. Now, if we're gonna update it to 2021, yeah, they probably be make up. I'll give them like 2 or 3%, maybe. And we're talking about the population of America and adults specifically.
Let me state unequivocally, I think that gay rights are important rights to have, but what we're talking about is the grift, right? It's from one subject to the next of crisis after crisis after crisis, where money, resources, and chaos is the tool that hammers home and eventually beats the loud minority over the head of the silent majority, right? And that's what I'm talking about. It doesn't matter what subject you're talking about.
You use
just that point.
You used the perfect word. You said chaos, and it almost makes you think that it's all planned, because I think it is, to a certain extent. From the Marxists, the communist parties of the early 1900s, that it's planned chaos to bring America's institutions down, because we are what's standing in the way of what these globalist elites want. They want a global society, and our freedoms and our love for our freedoms are standing in the way. So you're exactly right. It's planned to create chaos within America's institutions and within American culture, and it's just culture war, all over the place, over the place.
It's a big culture war with cultures fighting cultures. That's it. Or in our case, identities, because everything's an identity now. Identities are battling with identities. We're not even human anymore. Like, do you understand? Do you guys understand?
Murdering this language.
Thank you. That we're barely referred to as human now.
Exactly.
And you can't even say man or woman.
This is so. I just want to point. This is a Marxist play. Like 100%. If you don't know what Marxism is, you need to know what it is. I'll encourage everybody in our comment section to read up, understand it. Because there are some clear warning signs, and we're hitting like 7 to 10 check marks right now, and it's looking like we come into 8 or 9. So like we got to be aware of what they're doing and what the playbook actually is, so that we don't, because there is a point, like it's the old adage of, I didn't say anything when they came for the neighbor across the street. I didn't say anything when they came for my neighbor next door. And by the time they got to me, there was nobody left to speak. Right. That's where we are right now in this. Is people are getting, we're a conservative group. We're getting yanked off the internet all the time. It's crazy.
He said a woman. I remember when that dude did that. Then I know, I'm like, America's going down. When he said a man and a woman, I was like, whoa.
I'm surprised a meteorite did just crash land right at that moment.
Right?
So it's all
I wonder what God is thinking, man. Like, wow.
They be
I wonder
happy.
that all the time.
This nation will be judged.
This is where
Damn, that's the facts for real right there.
This is when I'd already lost hope in him. I'd already lost respect for him. But I'm like, maybe he's a good dude and he's just like a shit politician. He wants to make money. Who knows? Maybe he believes in all this. But this right here is when I was like, yo, fuck this dude. Ever since then, I will say fuck Obama and not care.
It is. There you go. You know, generally I've not been doing stunts here, but you know.
Oh my God.
And, this used a filter.
Yeah, I've really drank
I've never
my Monster.
seen this video. I've
never
never
seen
seen
it.
this. I've never seen
He did
this.
it twice, okay? Not once, but twice. He went to this city and pretended like he drank their fucking water. And you wanted them to vote Democrat again. So when Trump went there and he said, what the hell do you have to lose? Black people, you have been getting the same treatment nonstop. Why not try something new? I was pro-Trump from that moment on. He's trash, yo. This right here, I'm like, you did it twice, bro.
I mean, that is some next level act. I mean, this dude, that dude got to be in some movies here pretty soon, right? Like his acting skills are decent. You know, he's got that kind of Denzel swagger. Like, let's throw him in and see what he can do in Hollywood, because you know we're struggling right now. America needs a new good movie. I don't know.
I know it wasn't Obama.
At that point, Obama did not care. His second term, pretty much, he did not care about the people. He cared about his legacy, you know, and he wanted to live. He wanted to leave a progressive, you know, very leftist legacy. That was his intent, and that was the only thing he cared about.
He said he was going to change the foundations of America. He said it.
He did it.
People don't believe people when they say things like that, and it's true.
They don't.
And the same is true for Trump. He fundamentally changed some of the bedrock ideologies that we work off as a country. He didn't necessarily fix everything, but damn, he shook it up and made it very clear what the crumbling infrastructure is. Right? I think that is maybe a good way to put it.
You want to know what's funny? After the show, Tiffany, she was messaging me about police officers, and I'm like, I really don't care what your beliefs are. You know, I just want you to think about what you're saying. So I posed a question to her. I said, cops are going to get to the point where they don't want to police your communities anymore. So when all the cops are gone, who's going to replace them? Oh, that's never going to happen. And if it does, it won't happen in my lifetime. I'm like, okay, so because it doesn't happen in your lifetime, screw all the other generations after you. Just fuck them. So I asked her again, when all the cops leave, who's coming in? Nothing. I said, you're going to get the UN and they're going to turn this shit into Nazi Germany. It is going, that's the new world order. Once police are done.
If people think that's a joke, let me just pose this to you. I know that the UN kicked people out of a building in Utah last year. They kicked the owners out of a building and claimed it as UN territory in Utah. And nobody knows this. It's not on any media. Wow. It's not on, the only reason it happened, and I know about it, is because people I know still love that rave scene. And this is a place where they had raves, and they got kicked the fuck out. And it was the UN saying, this is UN space. Until we leave, it is occupied by us. And so if you don't think it's happening, be careful. It is. It's happening right now.
I'll be like, y'all can have the ashes.
Look, man. People think
real,
they
though.
really think that this stuff is fake.
No,
they're like, no, that'll never happen.
China has successfully, with the help of Iran and many other countries, changed the tune that the UN looks at us now. And yeah, you know, I'll leave this for Suni to decide, but this is actually, I could segue into a little bit the Palestinian-Israel conflict a little bit. You know, one of the things that Suni and I talked about before we jumped on here was, you know, some of our elected officials being I'm going to say what I think it is. They're in the tank for Hamas, which is labeled as a terrorist organization, and they're out there supporting them via Twitter and other means. You had Rashida Tlaib holding a rally literally in the streets where people are holding "Death to Israel" signs right next to her while she's talking about an issue that has been worked on for many years. And one of the issues that I see that's happening right now with our elected officials is they're conflating two issues and trying to make it a global issue when really it's a local at-home issue.
Mm-hmm.
And it really concerns me to see people taking the Black Lives Matter movement and putting that in the same category as what's happening with Hamas. When people start to make those types of mental connections, we've stepped off a ledge that is sometimes maybe unrecoverable. And it really is something that people need to take a hard look at. We have our elected officials saying in public spaces, on Twitter, on MSNBC, CNBC, every network they can get their faces on, they are saying this struggle of Black people in America is akin to a terrorist organization's struggle to fight for territory that isn't there. People need to understand that struggle. They are not connected, but by connecting them, it creates a global crisis that then they can insert themselves again to assert control, not only over just the American people, but at this point, it seems pretty clear that their job is to try and take that fight over the Israelis as well. So you can talk to any Jewish person in New York right now. They're scared to go out. They don't want to be out in the Diamond District. They're throwing bombs in the streets. This stuff is important to know, because when they start conflating these two issues, you know that it's not an at-home problem, that this is somebody else is doing the dance in the background, guys. And I just want to point that out.
That's facts. You made me think of something. ISIS, they recycle all the boogeymans. As soon as they get back in office, all the boogeymans come out. Oh, North Korea.
ISIS was Russia. The homies in the early 90s. Let's get real.
Oh, and this is my theory. ISIS was the boogeyman that Americans never got to see. We just heard about it. We never seen an ISIS member. But Hamas is the boogeyman that's real, because these are real jihadists. They hate America. They hate our country for the very same reason.
Yep.
Thank you. Funded by our government.
Yep. It's incredible. People need to. Your eyes are not lying to you. We took sanctions off of Iran, gave them $250,000, and then within a couple of weeks, they're throwing rockets across the border. If people can't make the connection between where that money came from, where it's going, and what's it's ultimately being used for, you got to question your foundation, really. If you can't see how that's working, I ask you to please take a stance and say, let's do something about this, because it's clear, right?
Yes. Hey, look, Taliban, Al Qaeda. I'm remembering all these ones. It's crazy.
This is it. This is Taliban, right? Then Al Qaeda, and then it was ISIS, and now we've had variation. ISIL. We've had, all of these different variations of the same boogeyman. Sorry, go ahead, DC.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and now we got once again Russia acting up. They're looking like they're ready to invade the Ukraine. And what did Biden just do? He just basically dumped a bunch of a boatload of money in their pockets by freeing up.
They get the pipelines. We don't get no gas. Sudi was touching on it earlier tonight. Gas in Japan is $3 a gallon, right?
Hey, look, that's just on a base. Now, if you want to get gas off base, you're probably gonna pay $9-10.
I paid $4.70. I paid $4.75 a gallon day to fill up my truck. Thank you. Thank you to the California Republic.
They're all the Democrat boogeymans to distract you from what's actually going on. Like these executive orders, these policies that they're pushing through, quote unquote, stimulus packages. All they're doing is paying off debts in other countries and paying for certain wars to happen. They're no different than the Rhino Party. No different. That's the same thing Bush did when he got in office.
Look, let's not forget.
And that's what they wanted.
Rhino started this.
They wanted business as usual. That's why Trump had to go. They want business politics as usual. And that's why we call it the swamp. It's the swamp. It's the most disgusting place in the world. These people disgust me. I'm laughing about it, but they truly do.
They do. You have to, because being mad about it changes nothing. I'm telling you, there's been plenty of nights where I'm like, yo, F all this. I'm done. But what is me sitting here being mad at? It doesn't do anything but allow me to keep the anger and the frustration inside of me. People follow us for how passionate we are. Like, this is real. I sit behind here and I do my research. I can't tell you how many books I've read.
And that's what one thing they take for granted. They take the American spirit for granted all the time. And that's what gives me hope that we're gonna overcome this. We're gonna defeat these forces, and we will be on the right side of history because they take that for granted all the time. Americans don't lay down like that. Americans don't like being trampled over like that. And so it's just up to us to keep building the momentum.
So I'm going to put this in the comments, and if anybody wants to click on it and read, I think it's worthwhile. This is an article written actually by Al Jazeera, and if anybody doesn't know who Al Jazeera is, they're the largest broadcasting network in the entire world, and they are specifically one of the predominant media companies in the specifically in the Middle East. So when you're talking about Muslim conflicts, this is usually the place to kind of pick up on from some news. And this is a headline straight out of their news as of 2016. So let's date this back. All right. So let's give that context. That's 5 years ago almost. And this is the headline of the article. Black Lives Matter and Palestine, a historical alliance. Okay. Now, if we can take that headline and the date in which that headline was written, which is 2016, I just want everybody to understand we didn't hear of Black Lives Matter until 2018. So the fact that there was articles written previous to the organization becoming a well-known or even a media-covered entity, and had already been linked to Palestine, and Palestine, for anybody who doesn't know what Palestine is, it is basically the two-state solution that was proposed when ultimately the militant groups of the Muslim religion decided that they no longer wanted to cohabitate with the Jews in Israel. And so Gaza was created to give them their own space, and it has been fought back and forth over, I want to say something like 14 times in the last 60 years. So people need to understand, in 2016, they're writing articles on Al Jazeera, which is a predominantly Muslim-attended media company. They are writing headlines 4 years prior to what we are seeing here today in our country about a connection between a terrorist group and what we consider, I guess, to be an organization here in the United States. I just want to make that very clear. That's crazy to me.
Do you guys remember when I did that China show where I said, America, y'all better start paying attention to China, because China they threatened, they're like, look, America's ready for takeover. And we're about to come in if they don't mind their business, or if you do anything threatening, we're coming. And in 2020, in October, this is a scientist, I think it was a Chinese sociologist. He literally came out and said, I'm going to put up the video. This is what China is saying. Like Danny is saying, don't think that these things are so far off that you're not going to experience these things in your lifetime, because they're at our front door and they're using COVID to do this. So I'm going to play a little bit of this video. It's going to take forever to load. I knew it. No, I don't want to do I hate ads, bro. Okay. This is a live that you should share. I think this video is going to send this into the algorithm because it's got something to do with China. And this is what they're saying about COVID. They directly say why they use COVID against America.
结果没想到中国要在2027年超过美国。2027年，原来说是可能还要缓个1-2年，结果这去年今年这个上帝 搞了个小阴谋，是吧？上帝给这个搞出来一个新冠，叫世界各国一弄，搞一搞这个新冠，这么一折腾新冠，结果对世界各国出了个考题，等于是，结果这个考题是个偏心的考题。这个新冠啊，这个东西啊，它是最不利于欧美的，最有利于朝鲜和中国的。所以全球抗疫，朝鲜第一，中国第二。朝鲜是个零嘛，是吧？朝鲜是零感染，所以这个体制啊，它可以做到。我们这个体制也好，但是比朝鲜还差一点，还不如朝鲜。所以咱还死了4000人，是吧？但是你死4000人和美国死22万人比，你等于一个人都没死嘛，对吧？咱们等于差不多也是接近零感染，接近零死亡，14亿人死了4000人，那根本就等于没人得病，没人死嘛。中国经济，全球经济，中国现在一枝独秀，中国超过美国时间提前了，2027年没有问题。美国活不成了，美国活不成。我现在在讲一讲，就是在座所有的人，我们不是你们14亿中国人几乎都认识不到这一点，不是中国在整，不是美国在整中国，是我们把美国逼得活不下去了。因为我们经济上2027年要超过美国，按 GDP 要超过美国，我们按这个 PPP， 按这个经济购买力，我们已经在2014年超过美国了。经济上上去了，贸易上上去了，然后就军事。
What do you guys think? Some people are like, China lies a lot. China lies, but they have completely infiltrated our country in its fullest. They have infiltrated our country. They have infiltrated the things that make us, our schools. You just heard me. I did an interview with a Hollywood actress. They've infiltrated Hollywood because all of our media that goes out is to appease China.
And they actually own land in America.
Next to military installations.
So one of the things here in California, guys, some of these people who are from California in the comments might understand this a little bit better. The housing market, right? It's an insane thing here in California. This is all theoretical on my part. I have no facts to back it up, but I will make an observation is that I have seen more recently more companies that have Chinese ties buying real estate and then leasing it back to people. It's causing a tremendous housing shortage. And so rents have gone through the roof. Housing prices have gone through the roof. Now, it's anecdotal. I'm just making an observation. I don't have anything that I can verify it with or back it up specifically. But as houses have come for sale, these people are throwing insane amounts of money, and it's usually not an individual doing it. It's a company. And some of them that I have looked into, particularly here down in Southern California, seem to have what you would maybe consider just to be a tie to a Chinese entity or something like that. And it's concerning to me when I look at the housing market to say, wow, is our land getting bought out from underneath us? It's an honest question.
Do you guys know what Taiwan represents to America? Okay. Can you give a brief preface to it?
So Taiwan is basically our safe haven in the South China Sea. So they are the gatekeepers between basically the CCP system and the rest of the South Korean, particularly those countries. And it is the gatekeeper between freedom and communism. And that's the most concise way to put it. So,
okay.
They are what Israel is to the Middle East for us.
100%. Yep. Thank you. That's an exact comparison.
China has said several times, we're not going to destroy America. They've already infiltrated our universities, the industry, the Hollywood industry. They don't need to do anything else to us because they've completely dumbed us the fuck down. Okay. But they're going after Taiwan, which is going to completely screw America. So get out of the thought process. Yeah. Oh, China's not going to do nothing. How long have we been saying that? And they've been doing for years. Years.
Is of the utmost importance. If any of us, we've talked about mental illness tonight, so I'm going to segue on something that's really important for people to understand. Your drugs that you take to maintain your happiness or your lifestyle some of the drugs you take to make sure that your body stays functioning. Some of these things are made specifically in Malaysia, Taiwan, and China. So let's not get it twisted. If we think they can't just turn the tap off tomorrow and there will be literally zombies in the streets, and by zombies I mean brain dead people because they don't have the medication they need to sustain life. So like I really want to make that point, because Taiwan is such a it is such a marker on the map of what could happen if Taiwan falls. You best believe that Malaysia will fall, that the whole eastern half of Africa is already bought and paid for. It will fall.
Yes.
And the encroachment of land that China has made is it's staggering, to say the least. But at the very least, it's extremely concerning for the entire world.
He said it. They used COVID. They said this dude said we reported 4,000 deaths. And look at America. 220,000. And you think it's a joke? They lie. They hide stuff. We already know that Fauci has ties to the Wuhan virus, the lab. They've leaked information. Go ahead.
Fauci yesterday finally admitted that they are not ruling out the possibility of a lab leak. So he is now calling for an official investigation. This is not breaking news in the sense that it happened today, but it did happen over the weekend. And
so
everybody,
Trump's so racist, though, right? Right. Danny, I don't think I'm glad that we named this race relations, because there are three. We're diverse, okay, and we're all well versed in foreign policy and foreign relation. Foreign relations. You couldn't even tell me exactly what Taiwan represents. And you know what, Pete? Why do you think we're so heavily dense over here, the military, over in these parts of Asia? You know how many bases are here? You know how many warships we have here? The big F-16s, the Ospreys.
If we lose Taiwan, we lose South Korea as an alliance partner, and it is game over from a nuclear standpoint, guys. That is how that is the nuclear deterrent from the eastern side is Taiwan.
Facts.
Just think about it. Coupled the fact that Israel is under such heavy attack and Taiwan is under such heavy attack, that's attack on those countries. But more importantly, it's aimed at being an attack on American democracy. They are representative of democracy in their geopolitical sphere. So if they fall, then that's akin to democracy failing, and it delegitimizes American democracy. And that's the point, to delegitimize us and to bring down America. So somebody said to me that they were talking about how we're supposed to be America first and all that stuff. Why are we paying attention to what's happening in Israel? And I said, well, you don't know geopolitics if you think what's happening in Israel or what happens to Israel doesn't affect us. It heavily affects us. we need allies of democracy in different parts of the world, because they're surrounded by forces of evil.
Exactly. And
America first is not isolationism. Let me say that one more time. We tried isolationism, and that led us into World War II. So America first is not isolationism. It's far from it.
I agree 100%. So it is important to recognize that our NATO allies, they're not just selected out of a hat because it's their turn. Like, this ain't no Harry Potter stuff, right? We selected these partners after the Second World War for strategic reasons to keep the world safe, not the United States. Remember, you guys, we have very little threat here in our land and in our territory. Like, let's be honest about this, right? We didn't enter World War II because it was politically expedient. It was because our oil supply got shut off by Japan. That's why we went to war, right? So we have to look at these things in context as global entities. You hit on it earlier, DC. They're building a pipeline in Russia. We can't have ours. What does that tell us about the America First agenda? It's America last with these people. And so it's one of those things that, recognizing the importance, not just of protecting, the Jewish religion and faith and culture, but also the strategic occupant of the land in which they provide. And let's be clear, guys, Israel is not full of Jews. It is full of Jews and Arabs practicing Muslim and also Jewish faith, as well as Christian faith. It is a incredibly politically as well as religiously diverse place, maybe the most diverse place on the entire face of the planet. So to call it a Jewish state is actually a misrepresentation of what it is. It is the gatekeeper to capitalism and freedom in the West, from what is surrounded by about, I think it's 19 Arab states. Like, so, you know, guys, when Israel's talking about their borders, let's take it's smaller than the size of New Jersey, I think, in square footage, and like, let's talk about that, because it's not that big of a place, and there's a lot of people that are fighting over one specific hill, and it gets real weird when we start talking about it in terms of geopolitical content, because they are an important strategic ally. We need them.
I don't know what Danny. Woo! I'm not going to block him. I'm not creating an echo chamber here. He's allowed to voice his opinions just like everybody else. As off key and off tone as they might be, he has a First Amendment right. I'm not going to block him. If anything, I'm glad he's here to learn, because I don't even think he's from the U.S. He's not from the U.S.
Yeah, okay. Danny, I've been seeing your comments, man. Hey, listen, you know what? There's some validity to what you're saying. We haven't gone and fought a big war in recent history, but there's good reasons for that. Lots of people die, and it's not a good deal, right? So you want to come at our country and call us weak because we're fighting, you know, what we've deemed is to be a good fight. Now, we can have a conversation about the validity of the fight we're in. I think that's a fair conversation 100% of the time. But, you know, if you're going to come up in here with kind of an ignorant attitude, that's fine. You can make the comments, but don't expect for that to be something that we're going to adopt and put on us. Right. I think we've talked about this to some degree. The slim minority, which, you know, I think in this group you would find yourself to be, we as the majority get to stand up. And this time, instead of silently take it on the chin, we get to stand up and say to you, I disagree, my guy. And it's okay that you want to have a different opinion, but you're not going to be right just because your opinion has feelings behind it. You have to bring the facts, you have to bring the reality, and you got to get checked.
Especially if you don't have the balls to come on the show and voice that opinion, you know, and have dialogue instead of, you know, typing on the screen and throwing your opinions out there and attacking us. You know,
I was on here yesterday, and I had so many people in the comments calling me a racist. It was unbelievable. And you know what? It's at some point we have this right. We have this right to speak up. I'm not a racist, and you can call me that all you want. It ain't going to make it true for me. It ain't going to make it true for my family, and it ain't going to make it true for my neighbors either. And that's the most important group for me, right?
I don't understand how you blame one country. You're blaming the U.S. for 99% of the refugees. They're from your wars, as if other countries don't have wars. Or we're like, come on, dude.
Exactly.
So if you're not going to click the link, and I put the link up here, the link is also posted and pinned. You have 3 different ways to get here. I'm not going to block you, but I will put you in timeout for this live.
To see them. If you can change our mind, listen, man, you got the facts. That's for sure, because that's what we work on.
I'll tell you about me. I hate being wrong. So if somebody presents facts that proves me wrong,
change my mind.
I'm going to change my mind. Yeah, I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to be walking around here being wrong. So please change my mind.
You're responsible for 90% of the armed conflicts in the past 70 years.
So I'll go back to what we started with, which was World War II. We didn't start that war. We only ended it, and we were there for about 3 years. So let's give that context. That war went from 1938 to 1945 officially, and we didn't enter until 1942, and we didn't enter for the reasons you think we did. That's for sure.
Thank you, because America can't mind their own effing business sometimes. I get it.
That's true. We ain't the world's police, but sometimes we like to act like it.
Yep.
But there's a heavy responsibility that lies upon our shoulders. You know, if we want peace throughout the world, and that's what we want, because it affects us. Like if we would have allowed sat back and allowed Hitler to take over the world, do you think he wouldn't have been at our doorstep next? You know, not only with his army and his fleet, but also with the Europeans' army and fleet. So it affects us, you know, what other people do. Like we can't just sit back and pretend that it don't, because it does. Like it's not our job to you know, virtue signal and, you know, tell other people how to live, but we can't pretend like they don't affect our lives here in America, because they do.
Yeah. Well, I think he's here.
Yes.
Welcome to the stream. How are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you.
I can't really hear you. You got to speak up.
Hello, I'm good, thank you.
A little smoked out there.
I'm drinking, okay, and it's early morning. So
I see a big old cloud look like.
Okay.
Open them shades, bro. No, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna hit the mute and let you go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's your disagreement? Go ahead. You have the
Is
floor.
there echo? I could probably put on a headset if there's echo.
No, there's no echo. Go ahead.
You're okay.
Yeah, I don't really have a rant. Like, I'm ranting in chat, so.
Did you just admit that you're a keyboard warrior?
Like, what I've said is in the chat already. Like, I don't have a verbal rant, but I'll be happy to defend my position.
Sure, go ahead. I mean, defend it.
Well, you need to attack it for me to defend it, right?
We've been attacking it all night. Pick a point.
Well, the U.S. war, right? It's been a lot in Iraq, is Syria, etc., around Israel, and it's created a lot of displaced refugees for us Europeans to deal with, right? Like if you didn't have that war in the Middle East, if Israel was in some place sunny, where it wasn't in like this desert area where they had enemies all around them, and they had to displace millions of people that do not like them, they'd maybe have a better time. And so with everyone, we wouldn't have these millions of Syrians, Iraqis, Pakistan, everyone coming
hang on, Danny,
to Europe.
Can I is what you're talking about segregation here? Because we've kind of
not segregation per se, more like refugee status.
So that's a really important thing. The refugee status in Europe is horrible. Are you in Europe right now? You've got a pretty thick European accent. I'm making an assumption, but
Sweden, bro. Sweden.
You're in Sweden? Okay, so like you're seeing this firsthand, right? What happens when people don't assimilate to your culture? It's creating mayhem, isn't it?
We are currently the rape capital of Europe, and we have more bombings than any war zone. We have so many bombings and rapes.
So to that point, right now. So let's talk specifically to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Okay, on one side you have the Israelis, whom have pretty consistently been at least front-facing in their messaging as, look, we don't want no beef with anybody. And on the other side, you have Gaza Strip, where you have mostly Palestinians, right? And they have a different mantra. Would you agree with that?
For sure. They do not like the occupiers. I will agree.
So you call them occupiers. Let's talk about what occupiers in your mind means versus the facts, right? So in your mind, you think that the Jews have no right to their traditional lands. Is that correct?
Well, they did come into the place in
1948. They declared. So in 1948,
to establish their colonies, right?
Okay, so
that's not true.
When I think it's 6 million Jews were flushed off the camps, and at least 2 million of them exterminated, and the UK owned the entire portion of what is now considered Israel. Okay, so at that point it was under occupation of the British Crown. So let's be clear about what that land was prior to Israel becoming its own declared state. So that was a British Crown settlement that in 1948 was declared as a sovereign nation from the UK as a state, as a nation state, to specifically house those who've been displaced from the insane Holocaust that drove the Jews out of the traditional European countries that they occupied. Poland, Germany, France, Italy. I mean, they were everywhere. And then suddenly they were rounded up. They were put into concentration camps. And when they needed a place to go, Israel was the nation state that was created, and they declared their independence in 1948. So occupiers, I disagree.
I suppose it's a matter of taste how to label it, but
no, semantics matter. The English language is being bastardized, and occupation means something completely different than land that was declared free of a nation by itself for the occupants in which it protects. Those are different and ultimately mean very different things. And we need to stop talking in these generalizations. You are bastardizing the English language when you do it, and it creates confusion in the argument. Be specific. If you think they're occupiers and they have no right to their land, okay, say that. But don't say they are occupying land that they don't own when they have declared it as a nation state since 1948 and have seceded the Gaza Strip to people who have asked for something that we have talked about time after time after time again on this live, which is segregation. It's ridiculous. They want to segregate them, and then they want to take their place, and they want to wipe them off the face of the earth. They are worth protecting, just as every black life is worth protecting. They are just as worthy as every Muslim that lives in the same nation. We have to stop lying about the facts here. That is not an occupation. It is a nation, and there is a tremendous difference.
And if you want to talk about the lands that that Israel took in the War of 1967 and I believe 72? You know, what other nation is attacked and invaded, and they push back on the invaders and take more land, and then the global community expects them to give it back? That's never happened before. That's only Israel. And my question is, why is that? Why should they have to, succeed land to other nations and other peoples when they rightfully, took control of those lands during the war that they didn't start in the first place?
You got to unmute yourself. Hold on. There you go. Go ahead.
Hello. Hey. Okay. I just think Europe is taking in a lot of war refugees from wars that America started, okay?
But those
it's
tribes,
from Iraq, it's from Syria, it's from everywhere, it's from Palestine.
But look,
all the war refugees are going into Europe without a doubt. Millions of war refugees from the wars that America started are coming straight into Europe, okay?
To
We're
blame
taking
America,
millions of people.
To blame America is to ignore the last 5,000 years of human history where the Middle East has been at war with each other constantly for the last thousands of years. They've been at war. So we're not to blame for what's already been there way before America even existed. So
whether you're Christian or not, the Bible is history.
They still would have been at war with each other. There still would have been refugees. It probably even would have been worse. Who knows? Especially if one of the nations went nuclear. Thank God, because of America, that's not the case.
So Danny, here's where, right? I asked you to come in with receipts, my guy. I'm a big receipts guy, right? If you can't prove to me that you know what you're talking about, then you are seceding that you have not done your homework, and there's more to learn, right? So one of the things that I think all three of us are doing right now is we're trying to educate you so that you can So that, listen, you want to have your point of view. Listen, none of us are going to argue with your point of view. We might disagree. We might try to give you some facts to change that point of view, or at least have a better understanding of what you're talking about. But you didn't come in with receipts, man. So I'm sorry.
What do you mean receipts? Like, what is the question?
Come in with the facts. Have him historical dates. State your opinion. Give some supporting evidence. Look, I know you've been to some school because you're in Europe. They got schools over there too. It ain't no dumb people land. So at some point, a little bit of history, a little bit of cognitive understanding, and a little bit of critical thinking, and you're on your way, right? And my point is, come with receipts, and that will get you a lot further down the road.
I have another question for you, Danny. How much of the blame should be on America as opposed to the politicians of your nation and of Europe for terrible immigration policies and border security? Because we know, like, all you have to do is do a quick survey of history to know that unchecked, unfettered immigration or illegal immigration, however, whatever you want to call it, it's oftentimes the downfall of many nations. It was the downfall of Rome in part, So knowing that, why are we to blame as opposed to your elected leaders?
No, okay, I agree. NATO is equally to blame, but many people view NATO as a corroborating agency to where US can exert their influence in the world.
Right. So show me a receipt, because right now they're all doing China's bidding.
Is
so
NATO
who do you think
doing
is really
China's
stirring up
bidding?
this conflict? UN is doing China's bidding 100%.
Absolutely.
No, NATO, not UN.
Who do you think NATO is?
NATO isn't UN. Are you crazy?
NATO allies are created under the UN structure. So that is
NATO has nothing to do with UN. NATO is like Five Eyes. It's Europe. It's fucking Australia. It's US. It's not the United Nations.
NATO
Nations
is a military,
it's a substructure of the UN.
It's got nothing to do with the United Nations of the planet. Do you see a single African country in NATO?
If you want to talk
Do you
about
see a single Asian country in NATO? NATO isn't UN. Like, the world is much greater.
Please name one NATO ally who is not a UN member.
Nah, dude, it's the opposite. Please name one United Nations ally which is not a NATO member. It's like NATO is like
so then my point. So then the point is clear, right? So NATO, we can agree, is the military branch of what the United Nations would ultimately require its allies to participate in. So
not even close. It's like barely 10% of United Nations. NATO is not United Nations. NATO is, if anything, the cabal between the Five Eyes and the US.
You brought up NATO, but that's a
interesting
military structure, though. That's a military agreement. You should have brought up the UN and the EU. That's the cause of y'all's problem over there across the pond. It's the UN that's in y'all's love and infinity for heavy government. Not only y'all's government, but
NATO is not sanctioned by the United Nations of the planet. Okay.
I'm sorry. Go again.
So I'm gonna give you a graphic because you seem like you're a visual learner. All I did was type in NATO in the UN. Okay.
Okay.
It's a military representation
of NATO. Give me the member list of NATO and give me the member list.
You can't even give me a member list of NATO. Why should I give you a member list?
Danny, you're not even recognizing basic facts here, my guy, which is NATO is a part of the UN ally system. Listen, again, I think your intentions are in the right place here, dude, and you're trying to make a point which is opposite of what we're talking about, and that's okay. What I would like you to do is try to make that point. Like, let's hear what it is, because we can talk about semantics. You're disagreeing here, you disagree there. We pull up an image that, you know, seems to give clarity. You don't like it. That's all right. That's fine. State your point so that we can get to the conversation, because that's what happens a lot is people come on here, hijack the narrative with, no, you didn't, you know, technical. Let's not do that. State your point. Let's get to the conversation, see where we can agree or disagree.
Specifically, NATO has a total of 30 member countries. Okay, 30 member countries is not the planet.
We could continue that, but I want to address my point. My question was, how much is the blame on U.S. as opposed to NATO, UN, EU, whoever you want to call, whatever you want to call it? Is it more our fault or y'all's infinity for heavy government in their bad?
I think United States of America, they start wars all over the place. And us European, we have to clean up the mess. We have to take in all the receipts.
Listen, hold on.
All the fucking process to rebuild.
Oh, okay. I'm going to do this right here because you're not listening. How we are American citizens, number one. Two, I'm a military spouse. You have no clue what you're talking about, dude. You have absolutely no clue what you're talking about. We started all these wars. What are you talking about?
What war specifically have we started that you're talking about? Are
Please
you talking
tell
about
us.
our engagement in the Middle East? Because leftists do this all the time. They speak about one specific thing, but then they group it together with a bunch of different things and try to act like they're the same thing.
So DC, let me make this observation. Danny, damn, you had a lot to say when you were in the comments, bro. For
real.
Where are you at now? You're on the computer searching. Like, this is what I'm talking about. If you don't have receipts and you can't come speak to it, then let's
trying to provide you with receipts. You are occupying the vocational space.
There it is again. Suni, can you believe it? We're occupying Danny's time. God damn, we're the infidels here. Didn't y'all know?
I'm literally being quiet to let you talk all of the time, and now you're complaining.
Go ahead and give your stance.
Do not have the receipts.
Everybody will mute. I'm gonna allow you all. Listen, you got about 15 minutes to pull up your receipts, and if you don't pull them up, I'm going to clown you at the end of the show. I'm telling you right now.
It's okay.
Go ahead.
I don't mind. Here. There you go. Easiest thing to find in the world, that
I just want to make sure he knows what he's addressing, because we laid a few things out for him to address.
Go ahead and make sure he knows what he's addressing, so he can't say that we didn't. We're going to be very clear. Go ahead.
Okay. So we're addressing the issue of, you know, whether it's more so America's fault or, you know, the government bodies governing Europe. We're also addressing the idea that America has started all these wars that we've been in that you claim. I want to know what wars specifically, or are you talking about many wars, or are you just talking about one specific conflict, which is the Middle East? Because y'all try to group that with everything else, you know.
Mainly where you produce war refugees, like where you start a war, you don't think about the aftermath, and then
where though? What
millions of refugees?
So you're gonna have to say where, and I'm gonna be quiet. Nobody.
Iraq,
we're going to allow
Syria,
you to pull your
Afghanistan.
I will give you Syria. I will give you Syria and Libya. Okay, but if you're saying all these wars, you're gonna have to come with more than two. Iraq, that's a no.
Iraq don't count?
No.
Even if I give it to you, that's three. Okay, that's three conflicts within the last, you know, few years.
It's just
but you're saying
wars, it doesn't
all
count.
these wars.
Never mind the millions of displaced citizens. It's just free. It doesn't count. It's just the free wars. It's only Iraq, Syria, Libya, Who cares? There's only 3 wars.
No, I'm not saying it like that. But when you speak in such broad terms, as if we're warmongering, going around the world, just starting war after war after war, you're gonna have to bring the receipts. You're saying a lot of wars, but you only gave me 2 legitimate ones, and I'll give you Iraq. But I want to know, what are all these wars that we're going around the world starting and creating refugees?
And before you go, this is race relations. He's a human. This is us talking to another country. It's relations. Go ahead.
Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, Libya. Okay, let's just focus on these wars, okay? Let's not mention Somalia or other armed conflicts. Why is the war in Iraq justified, okay? You had Tony Blair agreeing with George Bush, even if they do not find weapons of mass destructions, they should enter the country and go to war either way. Why do they have the justifications to blow up the Middle East and every single refugee comes to Europe? Why?
Because there's evidence that Iraq was on the path to gaining weapons of mass destruction.
Weapons of mass destruction? No, there was actually 0 evidence compiled.
So let's say in Syria, for instance, and in Iraq, so chemical weapons, that's not a weapon of mass destruction?
No.
They were using chemical weapons.
but that's not a weapon of mass destruction.
Yes, it is.
What?
It's a chemical weapon.
It caused
mass destruction. Hello.
Hey guys,
it's a different classification.
Danny, man, I listen. I'm with you on a little bit here. Let me find some common ground with you really quickly while you're pulling up your receipts. Okay. Is there total? I'm gonna talk while you're pulling up receipts, right? Because that's what you're working on still. We got all of ours, so we're just making sure you get yours.
Yeah, you got all of yours.
So I'm
just gonna.
Yeah, so let me just peek on what we have in common here, which is I think we can all agree that maybe some of the military actions that have been taking place were built under false pretenses. I don't think anybody here is going to sit here and have a big argument with you about that. Now, did it produce a border crisis in European countries? Very potentially. But you know what? It is the duty and obligation of the governments of each of those nations to secure their own borders. So I'm sorry, my guy, but it's kind of a bullshit argument when you come in here and you start saying, well, we created a problem for your country. Well, why didn't your country have a strong immigration policy ahead of time to know how to deal with people flooding your border? We're dealing with it here in the United States right now. They're letting people just walk across on willy-nilly. And you know what it's doing to people?
I have a solution. We export every single immigrant into the United States. Are you ready?
We already have enough here.
Even if you did that,
Syrians and Iraqis.
To be clear, Danny, even if you did that, we still take in more. And every year in legal immigration, let me be clear, in legal immigration, we take in more immigrants than any other country in the world, and many countries combined. Now, if you factor in the amount of illegal immigration that's happening with legal immigration, there are far more people flooding our borders than any European nation, period. So I feel your pain on the way that immigration can impact your country. Where I disagree with you is on how you're getting to the rationale of it's the United States' fault. It's not our fault your country didn't have good, strong immigration borders. That's not our problem.
You literally created the wars. You created the refugee situation.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my God. Stop fucking lying.
What are you doing, Danny, to petition your government or to get on your government's ass about the immigration? You're getting on us, Americans, about it. What are you doing to let your government know that you're unhappy with y'all's immigration system?
I mean, the only way you can really is civil disobedience. So I'm not being a very good citizen, but more so than that, I don't know.
So Danny, do you,
maybe
So you're taking the
help
easy way out, finding
destroy my
someone to
country,
blame.
dude. Let's help Russia and China to win over United States and Europe, and
There
that's
it is.
we'll call it a day, dude.
There it is.
What did you? Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
United
Whoa.
Fuck you
What did
guys.
you just? What did you just say?
Fuck off.
What did you just say? And don't tell me to fuck off. What did you just say?
Fuck off, dude.
He a drunk.
Did he just say?
Yes, he did. Yep.
So
I
if
said
an American
I
came
did.
across you, bro, they would have every right to give you that work. And you know what? I don't wish this on anybody, but you need somebody to knock you off your fucking head for a little bit. You really do. Look, I'm gonna keep you up here so people can see what a weirdo you are.
That's what the
He's
Swiss
drunk.
do. Huh?
He's drunk. He has no clue what he's talking about. He's blaming
Guys, this is
another
half of
country
America
for
right
his country's problem. Wow. Like Christine said,
This
here's
dude
a
is a
troll
character.
in his natural habitat. This is what online
Man.
trolls look like.
In their all right, that's gonna get us banned or something.
I want to show. Okay,
Woo!
So hey, so like I'm gonna throw a question out there, right? So this is what I encounter a lot of times when I engage with people. I see it on the show all the time. Look, you guys in the comments, the link is out there. You're more than welcome to come in. We bring receipts here, right? Danny didn't come with no receipts, and so then he resorted to fuck you, let China and Russia take a chance, and let me throw my man booby at you real quick. So it's a problem. This is childish behavior. This is what 3-year-olds do when they don't know how to respond to an adult. They throw a tantrum. They throw you, they throw angry comments at you.
And the thing about it,
these
are the people who are controlling the narrative. They're pushing the agenda. These are the people that the politicians are catering to. The immature, the politically immature. And that's where the destruction comes in, because they are at the forefront of the leftist movement. People like that, completely unsophisticated in their ideas.
So now Danny's back, and now he's claiming he's got receipts. It's crazy to me. Bring receipts, my guy. You want to come back on here and state your opinion? I think Suni will have you. I don't know. She'll have to make that decision.
Banned.
But
No, he's banned. I don't tolerate disrespect.
Yeah.
What he said was completely disrespectful, and he's drunk.
He is drunk.
So when you sober up, and
try again tomorrow.
If you ever sober up and you want to try this again, we will be more than respectful of you coming on here. But you just embarrass yourself in front of a whole lot of Americans. That's crazy.
That's sad, man. Hey, Danny, I listen. If you need help, honestly, this is on a personal level, on a person-to-person level. If you need help, there are a lot of people. You can reach out to me on the inbox, brother. I will help you. I'll give you information, whatever you need. All right. This is about educating the public, making a difference, and there is no person too far gone. So if it's just a bad night for you, that's all right. But bring receipts. They are important. They are what get you back to truth.
Why don't you come on here and talk? I don't think it's a waste of time to talk to anybody, especially when they're willing to have conversations that form thought. That's another problem with America and people in general. You have no patience, no empathy, no kindness, no willingness to even engage, even though he's a total jerk. We engage with him. He can't come back and say we were rude or mean. If he's going to come back and watch this, and over time, a seed will be planted and he'll learn, period. But I don't believe in turning anybody away unless you're just nasty. Okay, but he's clearly drunk and everybody's seen it. So just cut him some slack. He's going through something.
Yeah, he's in Switzerland. That's what he's going through. He wants to be in America. I'd be drunk too if I
think
didn't live in America.
I think he said he's in Sweden, which would make sense. I don't know if anybody else caught this, but the statistic that he cited that makes his country famous right now is, and he didn't dive into the detail because I don't think he wanted to talk about having receipts on this issue. The reason Sweden is known as the rape capital of the world right now is because of, unfortunately, and I'm going to say this as delicately as I can, it is because of the influx of people who have come in that have, we'll say, a different religious ideology that requires them to cleanse. Literally, this is like their doctrine. It's to cleanse the people of their sin by putting their seed into other people's bodies. So I just want to make that very clear to the audience that's watching right now. Is like when he said that, there's context behind it that is important to understand, and it plays into what we talked about earlier with even Israel and the Gaza conflict right now, where there is a religion that thinks that it is their duty to cleanse the earth of all other religious aspects. And so when he talks about rape capital of the world, we need to understand where that receipt rings up at. All right.
Race relations. People are like, this conversation got derailed. No, it didn't. It's race relations. This is how you learn from people. Because I never knew that they felt like that over there.
I'd be more than happy to share it again. The Al Jazeera article of 2016, pairing Black Lives Matter to the Palestinian struggle. If you don't see how that's race relations, then I'm lost. Sorry.
Because it's nothing new. The Black community and the noise that the Black communities makes, it's always been influenced by international forces. Like this is a thing that's been going on for decades in the Black community. So if we want to understand something more intimately, we have to understand the root of it, and a lot of it is due to international pressures that want to see America fall.
So DC, can I ask you, because I don't this is not a facetious question by any means, but like, can you speak to that a little bit more? Like, where's that money come from? Who's the purveyor of a lot of the similar ideologies? Do you know? I mean, it's not a trick question. I'm just asking on a general basis. Like, where is the top of that funnel end at, and who's that name?
Yeah, I don't know a name specifically. People say George Soros and things like that. So, but regardless of what you want to call it, it's whether it's the globalist elites, forces of communism, Marxism, people who hold those ideologies. I don't think no one can specifically put a thumb on the exact person saying he's controlling this, he's the ringleader of it all. But it's been at play for decades.
So I'll just touch on that real quick, if that's okay, Suni, which is to say, George Soros is oftentimes the most floated name. I think it's because of his famous story, and if people don't know what it is, look it up. Essentially, Soros was an Austrian Jew who was protected by a very wealthy man, and decided instead of going off to internment camps, that he instead would inflict violence on his own community. He was somebody who basically wiped through, they took all of the Jews' precious metals, basically. They took their gold, their jewelry. And he was somebody who turned on his own people in order to seek financial gain. And to be clear, he's been doing that now in multiple different ways across the globe for years and years and years. And he is one of the financial backers of like Black Lives Matter. And that's why I bring that into the conversation, is just so people understand, like, this money doesn't come from nowhere, right? Like, somebody's given it and they've got intentions. And if their intentions are anything like their past intentions, it should tell us a very important story about where we're headed in the future.
Facts.
We can even talk about the Soviet ties to the Black community and how much influence they had on the early Black movements, whether it's the civil rights movements, the NAACP, and Black Panthers, all that racial agitation. A lot of that was Soviet planning. So it's always been the case.
This was a fun show. I want to do more fun shows like this, but you're about to give me a ton of views, guy. Thank you. I don't know if you guys read this comment, but when you look at my thumbnail, it's him wearing his bed comforter. You know how many people are gonna watch this now? So thank you, Danny. For real, thank you. Like, man, I need people to see this because Americans need to think, and apparently, people in Sweden need to think too. Think, not with the bear goggles, man. Dang, I can't believe how thrown off he was. That was crazy.
So one other thing I want to throw in here real quick, because people I think are starting to connect some dots here that are important to understand. There's a pretty good documentary that Dinesh D'Souza did. Man, I think like last year. I don't know. Y'all probably seen it, but I think it's called The Trump Card, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
And he goes through and he touches on all of these things that are specific to race relations. He talks about how China and Russia, Iran, and a lot, Hezbollah, a lot of these groups have created the exact stance of the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? So at this point, we have a lot of nations that have teamed up with militant groups and are doing things that we I think traditionally call proxy wars, right? And it is an intentional distraction. And I want people to be very clear in that, nope, this is not a conspiracy thing. This is like there are people who are paying money to other people to get them on board with the one fundamental goal of destroy America.
Yep. That's it. Pretty simple. Just a ton of different angles. That's it.
It all
If
goes
you haven't,
together.
go read Color, Communism, Common Sense. This will all make sense to you. You can even look at French Revolution. It's a direct parallel to what we're going through now. You can look at you should read, a lot of people should read what is his name? He's a Fox News commentator. Sean Hannity. Live or Die Free. Read that book because he talks about the socialist agenda coming to America and everything that we pretty much talked about now. He puts it in an entertainment form to where you can stay glued to the page, but this stuff is real. And I hope people are informed with this live. I hope a lot more people go do their research. We are dealing with a regime. This is not a administration. This is a regime, and they're here to take over America and push communism and socialism. Military is already a socialist in its form. Okay. It's not fun. You don't have any rights. You can't say no. If you're tied to the military, that's it. You sign on a dotted line, you do what they say. That's it. Or you can get F out. So be careful what you wish for. All the Biden voters, I hope you guys understand what you just did. Really do. Do you guys have anything going out?
I'll just say it's always fun to be with you guys. DC is good to be on with you. Suni, appreciate you having me on tonight. I hope we get to do a lot more of this. It is really important, guys, as we're facing the beast here. Really, is what it is, right? Is we have to know where we are in order to chart the next course on our maps. So, we're having a conversation that's touching on home, it's touching on global, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it's about can you love your neighbor, right? And the most important piece I'm going to take away from this is like, look, I can agree with you, I could disagree with you. But do can you love me despite those differences? And I don't feel the love all the time, and that's okay. But I'm always going to give it. So, what I want to say is, again, I'll repeat what I said last night. It starts in your head, then it moves to your heart, and then it moves to your home, and then your neighbor's house, then your city, then your state, and then your federal government. We can do this. It's just going to take work, and having these kinds of conversations are the only way back.
Before we go, we should answer this question. What if Trump wins again? Would it make war? Wait, what if Trump ran again? Would he win or would it make war? I think he would win. And I think we would also go to war.
Yeah, I think he would win too. But as far as I guess you would you're talking about a civil war. Would it cause a civil war? Maybe. No, I mean a lot of that rhetoric is tossed around and things like that. I don't think I don't think we're approaching that. We're getting there. You know, it's heating up. Would that put us over the line? I like to think that Trump's character and his administration wouldn't allow that because he is a strong leader, and I would trust him to or his administration to not bring us to that point or whatever. But yeah, he would definitely win. I would think so, especially if they don't cheat this time.
I don't have as positive as an outlook on this one as you guys do, unfortunately. I would love to bring more positivity and optimism to this one, but I think the identity politics has been an effective, a very effective campaign. And I think that regardless of whether Trump is even in or out, it doesn't matter at this point. I think we're seeing war on our streets. If I'm calling it like I see it, I see people getting murdered all the time. I see people out with guns shooting each other. I see Chicago being a totally unregulated market where people and criminals are just doing whatever the fuck they want. Pardon my French. So I don't have as rosy of a colored lens around that specific subject. I think people are waiting for an opportunity, and there's 50% of this country that doesn't necessarily love him. So I could see them out in the streets causing problems that requires the larger group to stand up and say, we're not going to deal with that anymore. Now, I hope I'm very wrong about that. And I see scenarios in which that's absolutely the case, but I'm not putting my rosy colored glasses on for this one. I'm going to stand in a little bit of disagreement with you two on this one and just say I think it's a high possibility that it could happen. Now, I would encourage everybody to take a real hard look in the mirror and know if they got the struggle to go out and put themselves on the street and do the hard work before you ever pick up a weapon or choose that. But I could see situations in which that could arise very quickly.
But regardless, whether or not you believe a civil war would ensue or not, that's no excuse to support what's right. And to not support that administration who constantly did right by us, it would be a shame. If there's a civil war on the other side of it, I don't care. I know I stood for what's right, and Trump is fighting for what's right.
Absolutely.
Let me just add on to that and just say I think that's the most important part is the enduring spirit of the American people. So if it's avoidable, the American people will do that. And I think that that's the truth. So if it's an unavoidable consequence, it's because we've done it to ourselves. But again, I'll speak to that point is Americans will prevail. And if conflict is not necessary, then it will not happen. So I have faith in us as citizens of this country to handle things with cooler heads. I think it can prevail that way. Absolutely.
Just like I said during TBA when I was doing my speech, Americans have to have three things. You have to understand what essential means and how essential your voice and your vote is. You have to have perseverance because this is not going to be fixed in 1 or 2 election cycles. It's just not. And I can't even think of the last word now. I had it all in my head and then it just went. Pff. Can anybody tell me what I said? I said 3 words. I said essential, perseverance, and what else did I say? Somebody in the comment section, you guys know. I'm gonna pull my speech out. Let me see what I said.
That's what I was about to do.
I can't believe I forgot. Isn't that crazy? I write these things down and I'm like, dang, what did I say?
You know what, though? That was a really great question because it highlights the importance of this identity politics issue. Man, whether he wins or doesn't win, to be on the fence of whether or not we're at a civil war inflection is an insane and preposterous notion. So, I encourage everybody to move away from that thought process and towards your civic duty, which is vote. That can make tremendous change.
Said essential, perseverance, and the strength in numbers. So there's 80 million plus people that voted for Trump. Okay, no, Blake was courage. Mine was perseverance, essential, and strength in numbers. How many Americans feel like their votes have been disenfranchised? Like sitting here whining about the election and we got stolen. We can't do nothing until we fix 2020. States have already started that process. And even so, you have a civic duty to go vote, not sit on your ass and cry about it. No. And I'm not gonna encourage anybody to do that. There's straight the numbers. Everybody needs to get out, educate themselves. We gave everybody a starting point. Your school board. Figure out what's going on locally before you try to attack the Fed, because that's a whole nother beast.
Mm-hmm.
A whole nother beast. And I'm just gonna close on Tulsi Gabbard. She is very shaky on her foreign policy, on how she would handle military affairs. She came out and completely shunned Trump for taking out, I can't even think of his name, Soleimani. So no. If we can't do what we need to do and eliminate threats to our country that have taken American lives, I don't want you in that seat. And furthermore, it's not designed for a woman to sit there. I know people don't like to hear that either, but it's not signed for a woman to sit there. It is. Explain how. We have a woman that's a VP and her ass can't even go to the border. She hasn't even addressed, for the life of me, I still don't understand why she hasn't addressed Israel. You know what Biden did? Oh, let's send an envoy. Oh, let's de-escalate. Stop shooting at each other. Oh, they can, if they want to, if they want to defend themselves, they could do it. You want a representation of what America will look like? Look no further, because you have a female VP. Okay? And Biden's not going to last that long, and she's going to be your president. You don't want a woman in that seat. Other countries don't respect us. China is already threatening us. World domination. And I, for one, am not gonna go. I'm not voting for her. I won't vote for any woman. I don't give a crap who it is. It could be Candace Owens. Guess what? She won't have my vote. It's as simple as that. Yeah, I don't know why people like her. It's like somebody says something that's like really cool. Oh, I like what she said. Kind of like Tim Scott. He got on TV and said a bunch of good stuff. But when you look at him and where he stands on a lot of different things, he's a liberal as far as I'm concerned. And I'm tired of hearing good stuff being talked about. Obama did that for 8 years. I know I went on a rant, but I need people to understand how she's not presidential in any way, shape, or form. She says a lot of nice things, and that's all good and great. But nah, bro.
She's planning for a run. That's why she's kind of, trying to juggle both sides, make sure she's that, that link between the two, because that's what she wants. She's ambitious.
I will answer this one question and I'm off. You guys can hop off because I'm about to go. I'm going to close out. Because we are a helpmate to our husbands. Men are providers, they're leaders, protectors. That seat is designated for an alpha Christian male. I'm going to say it. A man who understands what God represents and has that direct connection. Women are too emotional. We're far too emotional to occupy that seat.
Can I throw out one example and one thing you should look at? Look at when a community is led by women. The Black community for decades have been led by women, and where has it gotten us? Not casting any aspersion on single mothers. Single mothers do all they can. They do their best, but they can't fill that void of a man, because men are needed as leaders in a community, whether it's a community or a country.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my piece.
And you know what? We're gonna do this show. See, God works in mysterious ways. We're gonna do this show. Was Adam an alpha male? Because we know the very beginning, the story that all of us know. Adam followed Eve. Okay, and when Adam followed Eve, all hell broke loose. This is what happens when you let a woman in the seat and a man is following to her. That is not how life works. We're helpmates. I understand what I represent in my marriage and in life. I bring life and I take care of it. I nurture it. yes, we can be essential in these movements. I'm a voice in the conservative movement, but guess what? I'm not running for president or any other leadership seat because I know my limitations. Period. Adam was a beta. Get ready for that show.